He was Yeping, an utterly ordinary office worker from Earth who lived a routine life of eating, working, and waiting for death. An accident sent him into an ancient world, and for 9 years after transmigrating, he tirelessly plagiarized poems and essays, hoping to obtain an official post and realize his ambitions. Just as he was about to enter the capital for the imperial examination, he saw a man flying through the sky on a sword. In that instant, he realized this was a world of cultivation. The realization left him devastated. A system voice suddenly appeared, saying the world-binding information might be wrong and telling him to start over. Yeping collapsed and cried about his 9 wasted years of studying, then abruptly stopped. This was exactly how beginner fantasy stories started. His confidence surged, convinced his talent must be terrifying. At the spirit examination assembly, everyone stared at the stone tablet, reading no spiritual roots. Yeping wiped his tears and cursed his fate, drawing laughter from nearby girls. Slumped in a corner, he lamented that he wasn't the protagonist after all. Then a middle-aged man asked if he wished to cultivate immortality. Hope reignited. The man was Deus Taiwa, sect leader of the Chinyan Dao sect. Later, Deus Taiwa explained to his disciple Su Chongyu that the sect would be abolished unless they gathered enough disciples. Other sects had mocked him at the examination, but he had finally recruited one person, Yeping, who had no spiritual roots and wanted no salary. Though relieved, Deus Taiwa worried Yeping would leave once he realized how weak the sect was, so he planned to stall by having the disciples fabricate incomprehensible techniques. Su Chongyu sneered, calling it simple fakery. When asked about his nickname, he proudly declared it was Trash Disciple, adding that when it came to showing off in Qinghao, he was second to none. He vowed to handle the task, even swearing to eat his sword if he failed, and went to wait on the back mountain. Before leaving, he dramatically summoned his sword, filling the room with light, only for it to turn out to be nothing more than a breeze carrying a leaf. Laughing, he admitted he had just shown off and still needed his master to escort him. Deus Taiwa could only cover his face and worry about the new disciple's sanity. That night on the back mountain, Su Chongyu sat shivering on a rock, trying to maintain the aura of a lofty master. When Yeping arrived, exhausted from the climb, he was immediately struck by Su Chongyu's refined appearance and hovering sword, instinctively thinking of a sword immortal. Doubt crept in, but the more he thought about the sect's strange mixture of ruin and cleanliness, the more convinced he became that it was a hidden powerhouse. Overwhelmed, Yeping blurted out a flashy line about sword immortals bowing their heads. Su Chongyu repeated it in surprise, then secretly delighted, deciding to keep this junior brother. He conjured a gust of wind, claiming it was a secret technique to enhance talent. Yeping was deeply moved and bowed in gratitude, while Su Chongyu calmly accepted, his arm trembling behind his back as he silently complained that it was just a breeze. Sitting down, Su Chongyu looked at Yeping and said that before teaching him the sword path, he had one question to ask. Hearing this, Yeping was thrilled. A question, just like in the novels. Before an extraordinary master taught a secret technique, they always asked a question first. Su Chongyu's voice echoed in the night, asking what the ultimate form of the sword was. Inside, he felt smug. No matter the answer, it would be wrong, and he could display his unfathomable understanding. Acting cool was his specialty. Yeping froze, his mind racing. The ultimate form of the sword. Even the way the question was asked felt profound. This had to be a hidden master. The question sounded simple, but surely hid deep meaning. Ordinary answers were too shallow. He hesitated, thinking carefully, while Su Chongyu waited, confused as to why things had suddenly become so serious. An hour passed. Su Chongyu grew impatient, complaining that he was about to freeze, and demanded an answer. Yeping finally replied that the ultimate form of the sword was a single blade of grass that could cut down the sun, moon, and stars. Su Chongyu was stunned. He imagined it and cursed inwardly, thinking that after 20 years of practice, the strongest he had seen was splitting a mountain, while this answer went straight to the heavens. Seeing Su Chongyu silent, Yeping worried he had gone too far. Inside, Su Chongyu was secretly impressed and decided to steal the line. Putting on a profound air, he said the answer was indeed too extreme and reminded Yeping that cultivation required steady progress. Relieved, Yeping admitted his mistake. Su Chongyu then drew his sword, slashed the air, and said he would leave behind a sword mark containing the strongest sword intent in the world, to be comprehended according to talent. He said he would return in 7 days and left. Yeping watched him go, convinced he had encountered a hidden expert and joined a hidden elite sect by pure luck. Su Chongyu hurried down the mountain, delighted, planning to show off again. In the bamboo forest, his junior sister appeared and asked about Yeping's talent. Dodging the question, Su Chongyu seized the chance to act mysterious and asked her how powerful the pinnacle of the sword path was. He repeated the line about a blade of grass cutting down the sun, moon, and stars, earning her admiration and teasing praise for his improved showmanship. When she asked how long Yeping would take to comprehend sword intent, Su Chongyu shattered the mood by muttering that it was impossible when even he hadn't comprehended it. She clarified she meant basic sword intent, and he immediately rejected the idea, leaving her staring at him in disbelief. 2 hours later, on the cliff behind the mountain, Yeping stared intently at the sword mark. The more he looked, the more confused he became. It was just a normal crack. Doubts surfaced, but he quickly scolded himself, reminding himself that everything so far proved his senior brother was an expert. It had to be his own lack of effort. Steeling himself, he continued focusing, and an image slowly appeared within his pupils. Suddenly, a figure appeared in Yeping's mind. Holding a long sword, it began demonstrating sword techniques. Each slash was firm and decisive, the power seeming to tear space itself, ringing in his ears like a great bell. 12 sword moves gradually became clear. Then it felt as if he were personally wielding the sword, practicing again and again. Once, twice, 3 times, faster and faster. 12 moves became 15, then 20, multiplying endlessly. A terrifying flood of insight surged into his mind. In an instant, Yeping returned to reality. He looked around in confusion, panic still on his face. Trying to calm himself, he thought of his senior brother and felt shaken. A mere breeze had brought such a terrifying improvement. This was far beyond a peerless expert. After so much bad luck, his fortune had finally turned. He even felt ashamed for doubting his senior brother earlier. Steadying himself, he focused again, convinced the sword mark would let him comprehend even more. 7 days later, at his residence, Su Chongyu rummaged through his collection of odd items meant for showing off. After some thought, he chose a hairpin, put on a long robe, and nodded in satisfaction. Muttering about the nice weather, he flung the door open and rushed out, excited to act cool again. Before reaching the back mountain, however, he was already drenched in sweat, complaining about how tiring it was and wondering why everyone thought sword practice was easy. 7 days earlier, when his junior sister heard that even he hadn't comprehended sword intent, she mocked him openly. Embarrassed and angry, he scolded her and explained that the 4th undersword he practiced ranked among the top techniques in Qinghao. Divided into spring, summer, autumn, and winter, each had 4 realms. He proudly claimed skilled mastery of spring thunder with 18 moves, only to be mocked again. Enraged, he boasted that at his pace, he was already an elite and would one day reach supreme attainment. When she asked what it would mean if someone comprehended sword intent itself, Su Chongyu laughed it off. Techniques were secondary. Sword intent was the true essence, and its realms were nearly impossible to cross. Across 10 nations, only one person had barely touched the 1st realm, infinite sword intent. He insisted it was absolutely impossible for anyone else to achieve it. Back in the present, after an unknown amount of time, Su Chongyu finally reached the mountain peak. Catching his breath, he wondered whether his junior brother was awake yet. When Su Chongyu saw Yeping still studying the sword mark, he froze. Yeping's eyes were ringed with heavy dark circles like a panda's, yet filled with stubborn determination. Su Chongyu felt a surge of guilt. That sword mark was just a gimmick. Had this blockhead really stayed up obsessing over it? For the sect's sake, he sighed inwardly, deciding he would wrong him for now and make it up later. Yeping noticed him and stood up. Su Chongyu asked about his progress, expecting failure. Yeping smiled and said he had comprehended it, all thanks to the opportunity given by his senior brother. Su Chongyu instinctively comforted him, saying it was normal not to comprehend anything, then abruptly reacted. Comprehended it? Yeping calmly said he had comprehended 400 sword techniques. Su Chongyu's face went blank. Inside, he was laughing hysterically. 400? Did this kid think he wouldn't recognize the sword mark he carved himself? It was ridiculous. Yeping noticed the strange smile and grew uneasy, wondering if 400 was still too few in the eyes of a great master. He fell silent, concluding that compared to someone who had mastered tens of thousands of techniques, he was still inexperienced. Su Chongyu gently advised him not to lie and said he wouldn't look down on him. Yeping insisted it was true, adding that 400 wasn't much given the opportunity he'd received. That remark irritated Su Chongyu. To him, it sounded like belittling the sword path itself. After steadying his emotions, he asked Yeping to demonstrate what he had learned, secretly deciding to give him a small lesson. Yeping agreed without hesitation, making Su Chongyu even angrier. The atmosphere fell silent. Yeping closed his eyes, golden light wrapping around his sword. When he moved, his swordsmanship flowed swiftly and smoothly. In an instant, dozens of moves passed, too fast to follow. Su Chongyu's face turned pale as thunder suddenly roared and lightning gathered into a thunder dragon. He recognized it immediately. This was the sign of the Four Thunder Sword reaching great perfection, something he had only dreamed of. Before the shock faded, another dragon appeared, then another. Spring, summer, and autumn thunder reached great perfection almost simultaneously. Yeping's sword only grew faster until winter thunder descended, carrying a chilling stillness. Only after 432 moves did he finally stop. In 7 days, Yeping had brought all 4 Thunder Sword techniques to great perfection. Yet he did not move. Instead, he frowned, realizing he had relied too much on the sword itself. Murmuring to himself about form and formlessness, he finally lifted his head, understanding what his senior brother truly meant to teach him. Su Chongyu stood there, completely speechless. Yeping clasped his fists together and continued muttering, speaking of the sword of the commoner and the emperor's sword of severing and creation. As his fists slowly parted, a beam of light burst forth, followed by a world-shaking explosion. Su Chongyu couldn't help but curse inwardly. Had this kid just had another epiphany from a casual demonstration? The scene before him overturned everything he knew. Where winter thunder had felt like annihilation and death, this moment was filled with renewal and life. In an instant, it felt as though countless years had passed. The invisible sword before him seemed to contain heaven and earth itself, as if a casual swing could wipe out armies. Then it vanished. Yeping stared at his empty hand and muttered regretfully that the feeling was gone and that such terrifying power had only lasted an instant. He sighed, blaming his poor talent. Those words struck Su Chongyu like a knife. Cold sweat soaked his back. He recalled once witnessing the supreme swordmaster of the Great Void in his youth. The visions and momentum back then were almost identical to what Yeping had just displayed, without spiritual energy. A terrifying conclusion formed in his mind. This was infinite sword intent. Such talent surpassed any so-called genius of the 10 nations. Even without cultivation, this junior brother could one day stand at the pinnacle of the sword path. Yeping suddenly looked at him with resolute eyes, saying that his sword moves were nothing special and that he would work harder, hoping not to disappoint him. Su Chongyu nearly broke. He absolutely could not praise him. A peerless genius like this had to be kept in the sect. Forcing his composure, he coldly replied that it was indeed nothing special. Yeping felt embarrassed, while behind him Su Chongyu's face twisted in agony, wondering what that made him. Then Su Chongyu noticed a small book on a rock. Yeping explained it was just a notebook of cultivation insights. When Su Chongyu opened it, golden light burst out and words leapt from the pages, filled with profound principles tied to every stage of the Four Thunder Sword. Each line was familiar, yet incomprehensible when combined. Staring in disbelief, Su Chongyu muttered that all of it had supposedly come from him. Yeping hurriedly downplayed it, calling it shallow speculation. Su Chongyu's mind collapsed. After years of cultivation, he had barely grasped the basics, while this junior brother had reached great perfection in 7 days and even touched infinite sword intent. Holding back his breakdown, he turned to leave, telling Yeping to continue comprehending and that he would return later. Left behind, Yeping grew dejected, fearing his senior brother disliked his poor talent and might drive him away. Remembering how no sect had accepted him before, he clenched his resolve. No matter what, he would seize this chance. At Deist Haiwa's residence, The sect leader was leisurely enjoying the weather when Su Chongyu burst in, panicked, shouting that something was terribly wrong. He declared that the sect's long-cherished dream was about to be realized and that they had produced a dragon. Deus Taiwa was stunned as Su Chongyu explained that Yeping had brought all 4 Thunder Sword techniques to great perfection in just 7 days. At first disbelieving, Deus Taiwa recalled the strange phenomenon earlier and realized it had been Yeping. He burst into tears of joy, shouting that a dragon had emerged, before promptly fainting. Su Chongyu caught him in alarm, while Deus Taiwa, after being revived, muttered to himself to calm down, remembering a fortune-teller's warning about excessive joy. Standing beside him, Su Chongyu spoke up, asking whether keeping Yeping in the sect would only hold him back. Deus Taiwa replied calmly that Yeping had already attended 50 Immortal Ascension gatherings without being accepted. For him, being chosen was a blessing, and for the sect, it was a gain. Cultivators valued fate, and the fact that others had not chosen him while they did was itself fate. He added that even if Yeping joined a great sect, jealousy, intrigue, and the secret elimination of geniuses were common. Compared to that, staying here might be safer. Once the sect advanced in rank, he would tell Yeping the truth and let him decide whether to stay or leave. Su Chongyu accepted this and was reminded not to expose the matter. The next day, Deus Taiwa was leisurely drinking tea when Su Chongyu came running in panic, shouting that something terrible had happened. Startled, Taiwa nearly choked on his tea and immediately prepared to hide, only to be stopped when Su Chongyu clarified it was not corpse collectors. Annoyed, Taiwa kicked him and demanded an explanation. Back in the courtyard, Su Chongyu handed him a notice from the sect management office. All unranked sects were to undergo investigation within 2 months and submit 10 low-grade spirit stones as proof of legitimacy. Reading it, Deus Taiwa turned pale and slammed the table, raging about extortion. He calculated miserably that the entire sect would need a year without food just to gather 10 spirit stones. Su Chongyu asked how many they currently had. After some embarrassment, Taiwa admitted they had only 70 copper coins. Su Chongyu was stunned. Taiwa then confessed that he had invested the sect's savings into a so-called cultivation fund and had been scammed. Even so, Taiwa remained resolute. No matter what, he would take responsibility and even venture into dangerous mountains if needed. The sect could not be destroyed now that a true genius had appeared. At that moment, thunder suddenly roared and the sky darkened. Su Chongyu sensed it coming from Yeping's direction and wondered if his junior brother had broken through again. Taiwa dismissed it as coincidence, though his face was pale. He quickly packed his things and went down the mountain to borrow spirit stones, entrusting Su Chongyu to stabilize and properly guide Yeping. 7 days later, at the back cliff, Yeping was still training. Each swing of his sword released brilliant golden light. Watching in silence, Su Chongyu felt immense pressure. In just 7 days, Yeping had already created countless new sword techniques. Seeing him approach respectfully, Su Chongyu asked about his progress. Yeping answered shyly that he had comprehended all 1,460 sword techniques, though it had taken some effort. Su Chongyu froze, forcing a strained smile as jealousy surged inside. Maintaining his senior brother's composure, he explained that sword techniques were only the beginning. Beyond them lay sword momentum and sword intent. Only by condensing sword momentum could one truly be called a sword cultivator. Hearing this, Yeping's shoulders slumped, his confidence instantly shaken. Though Su Chongyu looked calm on the surface, his heart was pounding wildly. He had to keep boasting. Otherwise, with Yeping's talent, he would be exposed within days. As if remembering something, Yeping asked curiously what realm his senior brother had reached. Su Chongyu gazed at the sky, sounding humble yet proud, and said he had merely stepped into the legendary Supreme Realm, the first stage of infinite sword intent. Secretly, he laughed to himself at how good boasting felt. Yeping's eyes shone with excitement. Just hearing the name made him feel awed. As expected of his senior brother, a true hidden expert, he decided then and there to follow him without hesitation. Su Chongyu explained that after perfecting sword momentum, one enters the Supreme Realm, whose first stage alone made one the foremost figure among the 10 nations. Yeping's admiration deepened, imagining his senior brother standing at the very top and himself perhaps becoming second one day. He bowed deeply, vowing to work hard and one day step into infinite sword in 10 himself, never forgetting his senior brother's kindness. Su Chongyu turned away in silence, suffering inwardly and wishing Yeping would stop talking before his jealousy burst out. Yeping gazed at the sky, overwhelmed. Just days ago, he had been an ordinary man struggling to survive, yet now he stood in a sect, cultivating the sword. In the moment, he even recited a poem about Qinyan Peak and cultivation. Su Chongyu, suspicious, asked about his past, and Yeping admitted he was only a half-baked scholar who liked literature and painting. Su Chongyu immediately suggested he paint something, secretly delighted at the thought of using it to show off later. Yeping hesitated, then agreed. In his past life, he had learned painting for years, only to still lose the girl he liked. Back in the present, he focused on the painting while Su Chongyu watched, bored but surprised by how handsome Yeping looked when serious. When the painting was finished, Su Chongyu opened it and was stunned. It depicted himself amid vivid mountains and sunset, his figure radiating the sharp aura of a sword immortal, so real it felt ready to leap out and strike. He praised it calmly, claiming the only flaw was that it failed to fully capture his unparalleled handsomeness. Yeping modestly offered it as a token of gratitude. Su Chongyu noticed the red seal, Qingluan Hermit, and muttered that the brat was pretty good at acting cool too. Just then, Deist Taiwa's voice transmitted urgently, saying he had found a solution to save the sect. Su Chongyu quickly took the painting and left, exhausted and doubtful that any solution could really exist. Elsewhere at Taiwa's sword sect, one of Qinghao's great sects, thunder roared as lightning rained down around a sword mark. Disciples knelt in awe. One blonde-haired disciple suddenly laughed, declaring he had comprehended it and reached great perfection of the spring thunder sword. Others stared in shock and admiration, praising his talent and calling him one of Qinghao's top sword geniuses. Elders exchanged flattery and modest praise, though a mocking voice reminded them that Qinghao was full of hidden experts and that claiming first place too early was unwise. Elder Qin snapped angrily, scolding the brat for his tone, but another man quickly stepped in to mediate, saying there was no need to quarrel. Though first place might be exaggerated, the sect master had given an order. No matter what, they had to secure a spot in the top 10. Seeing their confusion, he revealed the reason. Those in the top 10 would receive a token to enter the Taishuren Sword Tower. The implication left them stunned. Ming Jian immediately laughed smugly, declaring that heaven favored him and that his disciples would surely seize a place. Elder Qin scoffed, warning him not to speak too soon, and Ming Jian burst out laughing, swearing that if any disciple outside the three great sects defeated his own, he would clean toilets for a year, upside down. At the Qinyan Dao sect, Deist Taiwa, and Su Chongyu stared at the items laid out on the table. Su Chongyu exploded, demanding how a pile of junk could possibly be a solution. Taiwa corrected him seriously, insisting these were the sect's finest treasures and that selling them at a pawn shop was their only option. Su Chongyu flatly refused, saying he would not embarrass his handsome face. Taiwa begged him to help just once more. When Taiwa noticed the painting in Su Chongyu's hands, he snatched it and ran, shouting that every coin counted. Su Chongyu chased after him, yelling that it wasn't worth anything. At the pawn shop, the shopkeeper welcomed them warmly, only for his smile to vanish when he saw the junk. He even screamed upon spotting a porn book, which Taiwa instantly snatched back, declaring that one absolutely could not be sold. Su Chongyu whispered to borrow it later, and Taiwa happily agreed. Taiwa boldly offered to sell everything for 10 taels of gold. The shopkeeper called him crazy. After haggling down to 5 taels, the shopkeeper still refused. Just as Su Chongyu urged them to leave, the shopkeeper noticed the painting and asked to see it. Examining it, he scoffed at first, then froze. Suyang rice paper alone was worth more than 10 taels. When he saw the seal, Qingluan Hermit, his expression completely changed. He whispered urgently to his assistant, and then politely asked them to wait for the head manager. An hour later, the shopkeeper returned, saying the head manager wished to discuss a real price. Su Chongyu casually said it was just something his junior brother drew, only to have Taiwa clamp a hand over his mouth. Taiwa then raised 5 fingers and calmly named a price, inwardly smug. The shopkeeper agreed without hesitation. 5,000 taels. Taiwa's smile froze. He stammered, asking how much. The shopkeeper repeated it, 5,000 taels as requested. Taiwa nearly collapsed in disbelief. while Su Chongyu stood blankly, wondering how something Yeping had drawn so casually could possibly be worth that much. Su Chongyu urgently gestured at Taiwa to agree at once, warning that the shopkeeper might back out and that the sect could finally be saved. As Taiwa clasped his hands and calmly said there had been a misunderstanding. What he meant was 50,000 taels. Su Chongyu nearly screamed, stunned by his master's madness. The shopkeeper laughed instead, praising the bold price. Though 50,000 taels was astronomical, he said it was not impossible for Master Qinglan. Hearing that, both of them froze. Taiwa broke in a cold sweat, realizing he had bluffed too far. Forcing himself to stay calm, he decided to probe further. He crossed his arms and said they had already asked other shops, implying Master Qinglan was widely recognized. The shopkeeper smiled and explained that Qinglan Hermit had recently emerged as Gan State's most gifted talent. His calligraphy had reached perfection, his paintings shattered convention, and his poems had captivated countless admirers. Yet after leaving behind his works, he vanished without a trace, earning even greater admiration for treating fame so lightly. Both master and disciple were dumbfounded. Taiwa awkwardly agreed, while Su Chongyu wondered if they were really talking about that junior brother of theirs. The shopkeeper then pointed out the flaw. This was a portrait. Compared to Qinglan's landscape paintings, the value dropped enormously. Hearing that tens of thousands of taels were lost because of it, Taiwa glared murderously at Su Chongyu, who hurriedly told him to stay calm. Taiwa composed himself and demanded a final price. The shopkeeper offered 10,000 taels, explaining it lacked a poem and was not a pure landscape. Taiwa immediately agreed. The shopkeeper was surprised by the lack of bargaining, but Taiwa simply said he liked his face and took the money. The two hurried away. Outside, Su Chongyu asked why they did not try another shop. Taiwa explained that knowing when to stop was wisdom, and carrying such wealth would invite disaster. Both then stared at the silver note and jumped with joy. 10,000 taels. The sect was saved. Taiwa then scolded Su Chongyu for letting Yeping draw a portrait, lamenting the lost fortune. As excitement faded, Taiwa grew thoughtful, wondering about Yeping's true background. Su Chongyu said he trusted him and believed he carried secrets of his own. Taiwa agreed and decided not to pry, saying everyone had their burdens. Seeing his master unusually serious, Su Chongyu joked that he expected him to squeeze out more paintings. Taiwa almost punched him and told him to shut up. Then he announced they were going to buy a gift for Yeping. Su Chongyu followed him to a towering building and stared in shock. The secret Yuan Pavilion. Taiwa walked in proudly, saying the money was earned by Yeping and should be used to nurture him. He admitted that while he usually seemed greedy, he knew what mattered at critical moments. If the sect rose in rank in the future, it might all depend on that junior brother. Su Chongyu frowned and warned again that the secret Yuan Pavilion was terrifyingly expensive. Taiwa waved the silver note confidently. No matter how expensive it was, could it really be more extravagant than this? He strode into the secret Yuan Pavilion, reminding Su Chongyu to stop rambling and act like a rich man. Confidence was the key to being rich. Inside, two beautiful attendants greeted them warmly. Taiwa's face flushed as he took in the grandeur, secretly marveling at what rich people's places looked like and comparing it to the pawn shop. When asked whether they wanted magical artifacts or manuals, Taiwa calmly inquired about the best manuals and their prices. The attendant smiled and explained that a full set of first-rank manuals cost over 100,000 taels of gold, discounted for the anniversary. Su Chongyu froze. Over 100,000, and they called it cheap. Taiwa whispered for him to calm down, scolding him for lacking ambition. When Taiwa asked about buying just the introductory volume, the attendant warned it was useless alone, but still possible. Su Chongyu panicked, saying spending 10,000 taels on a useless book was madness. Taiwa snapped back that with Yeping's monstrous comprehension, even an introductory volume would be more than enough. Realizing this, Su Chongyu immediately agreed. The attendant brought out 3 first-rank introductory volumes. Taiwa asked which was the strongest. She recommended the river flow sword technique, explaining that its sword momentum flowed like a great river and might even lead to higher techniques if the talent was exceptional. The introductory volume alone cost 9,000 taels. Taiwa stiffened, then clenched his teeth and decided to go all in. He bought it and used the remaining money on top-grade pills. Su Chongyu asked if he really planned to leave nothing behind. Taiwa replied grimly that since the money was for nurturing a genius, he would spend it all. Su Chongyu joked that his master seemed possessed, earning a furious outburst as Taiwa reluctantly let go of the silver note. Outside, Taiwa clung to Su Chongyu, crying about how much it hurt. Trying to change the subject, Su Chongyu mentioned the upcoming exams for their other disciples. Taiwa snapped that he was never mentioning money again and dragged him toward his secret treasure place. They stopped at a street stall selling manuals by weight. Su Chongyu stared blankly, realizing this was the so-called treasure place. Taiwa claimed hidden treasures could be found here and even used it as an excuse for where their four-seasoned sword supposedly came from. As Taiwa bargained fiercely, Su Chongyu glanced at the manuals, horrified by their ridiculous titles and illustrations, swearing that if these could be cultivated, he would eat boogers in public. After haggling, Taiwa walked away happily with a large sack. Su Chongyu asked if his master bought anything for himself. Taiwa laughed, saying he needed nothing and that seeing his disciples do well was enough, though Su Chongyu found this sudden sentimentality disgusting. Taiwa then ordered him to practice the basics of the river flow sword technique within 7 days or be banned from showing off. Confused, Su Chongyu asked why he had to practice. Taiwa explained that if they handed Yeping the manual directly, there would be no need for them to pretend to be experts. Su Chongyu was to learn just enough to teach, while the street manuals would be used to stall Yeping. Worried, Su Chongyu asked whether Yeping could really comprehend anything from such trash. Taiwa burst out laughing, admitting the street manuals were pure nonsense, meant only to fool a complete newbie. As for the other disciples, Taiwa joked about giving them something else and planned to stash the manuals in the scripture pavilion as decoration. Laughing heartily, Taiwa declared that if anyone could truly comprehend cultivation from such garbage, he would eat every single book himself. Su Chongyu suggested tricking Yeping into drawing another painting so the second and third disciples' techniques could be settled as well. Deus Taiwa sighed, admitting he had thought about it too. They had already tricked Yeping once for the sake of the sect. If they kept doing it, he feared they would lose their original intention and start treating Yeping like a cash cow. Yet one casual painting from Yeping was worth more than hundreds of years of effort by the sect, and growth required money. It was a dilemma he hated the most. In the end, he decided to put aside for later. Taiwa then spoke solemnly. For the next 2 months, Su Chongyu had to give everything to teaching Yeping swordsmanship. He planned to send Yeping to the Qinghao Sword Dao tournament. Su Chongyu was shocked and immediately objected. Yeping had terrifying talent, but no inner power. He was strong on the surface, but empty inside. That tournament involved real combat, and he could easily die. Su Chongyu recalled his own experience there, barely surviving as cannon fodder. Yeping, no matter how gifted, was still like a newborn holding deadly techniques. Taiwa cut him off, saying he would explain later. Su Chongyu was ordered to keep it secret and tell the others only that the scammed money had been recovered. Reluctantly, he agreed. On the back mountain, Yeping was still training. Seeing his progress, Su Chongyu felt bitter and jealous, yet forced himself to act calm. He asked whether sword practice felt dull. Yeping smiled brightly and said he improved every day, so it never felt dull. Su Chongyu nearly choked on his jealousy. Feigning casual concern, he said that if Yeping ever felt bored, he could give him another manual. Yeping instantly lit up, declaring he was extremely bored and full of anticipation. Su Chongyu handed him a book called Ancient Mantra of Gods and Demons. The name alone made Yeping solemn and excited, convinced this confirmed the sect's hidden status. Su Chongyu hurriedly explained that it was a body-refining manual he had found by chance, that swordsmanship alone was insufficient, and that with Yeping's weak spiritual roots, body cultivation might actually suit him. As he spoke, he felt deeply embarrassed by his own nonsense and quickly took his leave, panicking inwardly. Once he learned a bit of the river flow sword, he would return and pretend again. He loved pretending. Night fell. Yeping practiced alone, pondering the ancient mantra of gods and demons. The name thrilled him, yet he restrained himself, deciding to first stabilize the Four Thunder sword momentum. Impatience would only hinder him. Meanwhile, at his residence, Su Chongyu stared at the river flow sword manual for 2 days without understanding a single line. Panic gnawed at him. Wasn't it supposed to just require a brain? Yeping, on the other hand, trained relentlessly. Golden light flickered around him. After half a day, he fully grasped the four thunder sword momentum. Leaning on his sword, exhausted but smiling, he realized that only sword intent remained. Walking toward the book, he murmured that sword intent represented will and must never be approached with impatience. Yeping lowered his head toward the book, muttering that failing to comprehend was one thing, but comprehending wrongly would be disastrous. His senior brother had given him this manual at precisely this moment, clearly fearing impatience would lead him astray. Looking up at the sky, Yeping clicked his tongue in admiration. As expected of senior brother, truly far-sighted. He cleared his thoughts and carefully opened the ancient mantra of gods and demons. The first page described Tao Venerable Ma Xuan, who claimed that true body cultivation surpassed spiritual cultivation, allowing one to grasp the sun and moon, pluck stars from the heavens, and annihilate all things with a single punch. The highest realm was the body of God and demon, with divine organs and demon flesh. Yeping froze, breath forgotten. Divine viscera, divine body, one punch to destroy all things. There is only one word for it, terrifying. The next page warned that cultivation required unimaginable suffering and could only be mastered by those with indomitable will, perseverance, and wisdom. Yeping decided without hesitation. Cultivation without hardship was meaningless. His reputation as a former bookworm had not been earned for nothing. On the third page was the heaven-observing diagram. The illustration left him dumbfounded. Though he complained inwardly about how absurd and embarrassing the posture looked, he still forced himself into it, blushing as he reminded himself that senior brother would not deceive him. Elsewhere, in the ink scroll pavilion of Gene Nation, a girl hurriedly finished writing while being nagged about how poorly the ancient mantra of gods and demons sold. She dismissed the complaints, secretly liking the manual herself, and then learned that the 10 Nations Academy would begin recruiting next year, filling her with anticipation. 3 days passed. Yeping remained in the heaven-observing posture. Suddenly, he spat out blood. His face was haggard, dark circles deep. The manual claimed that those with talent would comprehend the diagram at a glance. Yet he had nothing. Doubt crept in, but he refused to give up. If his talent was lacking, he would make up for it with effort. He increased his training to 22 hours a day. From noon to midnight, he continued pondering. The simpler a method looked, the deeper its meaning often was. Observing the heavens, observing all things, perhaps it meant a grand, all-encompassing view. By dawn, he was still immersed, unsatisfied. He recalled the idea of the 3 eyes: mortal eye, heavenly eye, and Dharma eye. The heavenly I saw beyond appearances, while the Dharma I perceived essence and law. His eyes slowly turned blue as his thoughts sharpened. He could not remain at the surface. He had to seek the essence to understand the laws behind all things. Yeping repeated key phrases in his mind. Essence, laws, a higher level, the Dharma, I. Suddenly, all thought stopped. His expression froze as realization dawned. He murmured that he seemed to understand a little. Looking at the rising sun, he said that when ordinary people look at the sky, they only see vastness, not realizing that what they call the heavens is actually the innate heart. Buddhas and demons see all beings differently because every being has a unique heart. The manual meant that within each person resides their own god or demon, and one only needs to sincerely introspect to find it. Yeping scolded himself for nearly missing sudden enlightenment. He shifted posture, one fist raised, the other pressed to his chest, eyes closed. There was no need to look at the sky. Observing the heavens meant turning the heart into eyes and perceiving the world within. Go and seek. In the deepest part of the soul lay one's own god or demon. A hot gust swept past. Yeping opened his eyes and froze. Before him stood a colossal figure with countless arms holding weapons. So this was his god or demon. That same night, a streak of light crossed the sky. At the ruins behind the 10 Nations Academy, a rugged man exclaimed excitedly about a divine descent, only to be coldly reminded to restrain himself. Celestial phenomena were never precise. If it was truly gold, it would not remain hidden. The streak of light also passed over the Great Sea Imperial Palace. A girl celebrated the omen, asking what if the divine being did not descend within Great Xia. The emperor replied calmly that he would seize it anyway. On the demonic beast plains, a colossal beast roared at the sky while a muscular man watched with interest, saying the demon race should double its efforts. Back at Su Chong-yu's residence, he collapsed on the ground, cursing as tears streamed down his face. After days of staring at the manual, he still understood nothing. Cultivation made no sense. Then he sat up in alarm, thinking of Taiwa demanding his 10,000 taels back. His body trembled. That greedy old man would never let him off. A streak of light shot past, startling him. He stared at the sky, puffed on his pipe, and sank into melancholy. Midnight always made him feel like this. What was the point of living anyway? Not far away, the junior sister and Suluing watched him quietly. She wondered what was wrong with her senior brother lately, always staring at the stars. Suluing, eyes closed, said it must be because the new junior brother's talent was too poor and that senior brother lacked patience. He stood up, declaring that tomorrow he would personally teach the junior brother a lesson and also give senior brother a proper one. Deep within Yeping's mind, a god demon statue with 12 arms appeared, ancient voices echoing endlessly. Yeping sat motionless, eyes tightly shut, fully immersed in cultivation. When Yeping opened his eyes, a blue light flashed within his pupils, and realization struck him. This was his own body cultivation method. He closed his eyes and focused for a few breaths, yet within his sea of consciousness, it felt as though hours passed. The god demon stood within his heart, its body forged like divine iron, holding the great Tao of heaven and earth, spanning the universe. Its aura was terrifying, impossible to gaze upon directly. When its eyes turned toward Yeping, a vast flood of cultivation knowledge surged into his mind. The so-called ancient mantra of gods and demons used heaven as a hammer and earth as a furnace, absorbing all things to remold the body. It was divided into 5 realms: lesser god demon, greater god demon, supreme god demon, great Tao god demon, and great Tao ancestral god. At its peak, the body would rival a true dragon, blood and chi blazing like the sun, spirit, marrow, and essence reaching perfection. Spiritual energy was used to connect heaven and earth, borrowing earth as a furnace and heaven as a hammer to temper the body again and again. It was an extremely dangerous process, repeatedly collapsing and rebuilding the body, demanding inhuman willpower. Yeping comprehended it fully, but quickly realized the problem. To form the heaven hammer and earth furnace, he needed spiritual energy, which he did not possess. Pills could generate some energy, but he had not even stepped into the chi refinement stage and dared not act recklessly. Remembering that the second senior brother specialized in alchemy, he decided to seek advice. At the same time, the second senior brother sat gloomily, abandoning all effort. Whether he understood or not no longer mattered. Everything was meaningless in the end. Taiwa appeared and asked about the river flow sword manual. Su Chong-yu calmly replied that he understood nothing and no longer cared. Taiwa sighed, then announced they were heading to the Jinglin Mountains. A true life-and-death trial might help him break through, and they could also hunt demon beasts to earn money. Su Chong-yu immediately refused, valuing his life far more, only to be dragged along anyway. Elsewhere, within the Four Thunder Sword sect, disciples were praised for their progress in the Spring Thunder technique. Yet the sect master warned them not to slack off. This Sword Dao tournament was special. In 2 months, the sect master himself would personally instruct them. It was revealed that a hidden sect would also participate, one carrying supreme inheritances from ancient calamities. In the Grand Hall, the sect master gathered everyone and revealed an even greater matter. The 10 Nations Academy was recruiting again. As before, the Imperial Court would secretly send a special envoy to select talents from the Sword Dao tournament. The sect master claimed he already knew who that envoy was. He presented a painting in the style of Chingon Hermit. Within it lay sword intent. Since Chingon Hermit was not a cultivator, only one conclusion remained. The person in the painting had condensed supreme sword intent and imprinted it into the scroll. That person was the special envoy. The sect master further explained that this envoy was the Jin Nation's Inspector General Commander, a peerless swordsman who loved roaming the world and cared nothing for wealth or women. The painting had been acquired in Bua Ancient City, sold by someone who looked exactly like the figure in it. The sect master ordered everyone to seal the news. Such a figure could not be courted with petty tricks. If encountered, they should respectfully seek guidance and nothing more. Satisfied, he praised his own wisdom. That night, Yeping decided not to cultivate the God-Demon body method yet. It was too dangerous. As for pills and spiritual energy, he would ask his senior brother first. He must not act recklessly. At that moment, a voice sounded. Junior brother, I am your senior brother, Suikin. Just call me senior brother Luo Chin. Second senior brother had come on his own. Yeping quickly greeted him. Luo Chin explained that senior brother Su had been occupied lately and asked him to teach alchemy instead. He gently reassured Yeping that senior brother Su was kind-hearted but inexperienced at teaching, and that lacking talent in swordsmanship did not mean lacking talent elsewhere. The Tao had many paths. Yeping said he was not disheartened and would work harder with the sword. Luo Chin nodded and began the lesson. He asked what kind of existence the strongest alchemist was. The question felt familiar. Yeping answered that alchemists stood above cultivators, that a single pill could move countless experts, extend lifespans, and even alter destiny. Luo Chin dismissed it as shallow and urged him to think bigger. Yeping then said pills could change physiques, luck, and even allow one to become immortal. Still too shallow. Luo Chin declared that the strongest alchemist no longer refined pills, but refined heaven and earth itself, with every pill being a world. Yeping was shaken. The Tao of alchemy could be this vast. When he asked if Luo Chin had reached that realm, Luo Chin vaguely replied that it was something like that, then quickly changed the topic, saying he would only teach basic fundamentals for now. He explained non-toxin alchemy. Pill toxicity came from ingredients, so true non-toxin alchemy avoided ingredients altogether, directly condensing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It sounded absurd, yet logical. Spiritual energy was the source of all medicinal effects. Yeping asked whether someone without spiritual roots could rely on pills to gain spiritual energy. Luo Chin said it was possible, but impractical, requiring enormous and unsustainable consumption. Yeping was disappointed, but listened as the lesson continued. Elsewhere, Taiwa and Suchong spoke briefly in the Jinglin Mountains, agreeing that Yeping would be fine on his own. Nothing dangerous should happen in the outer region. Early morning arrived. Yeping walked through the quiet forest and an old temple, bells echoing softly. The scenery was serene, though there was no spiritual energy. Having learned basic alchemy theory, he decided to broaden his knowledge and headed to the scripture pavilion. The pavilion was simple and neat, nothing like grand temples elsewhere. To Yeping, this felt like the true style of a hidden Taoist sect. Even the single incense stick reflected sincerity over excess. He began browsing the shelves, his eyes passing over titles filled with power and mystery. 10 dragons, 10 elephants. Primordial spirit technique. Supreme double pupil method. True dragon divine power. Heavenly emperor sword technique. 3,600 immortal acupoints. 36 heavenly arts, 72 earthly methods. Just reading the titles alone was overwhelming. Such secret manuals were casually placed on open shelves without protection. Was this what a hidden sect was like? Yeping was thrilled, then forced himself to calm down. Excitement only led to mistakes. Cultivation had to be taken step by step. The next day arrived before he realized it. He felt he had only just entered the flow. Still, he had gained a basic understanding of this world. The imperial dynasty's power in a cultivation world was immense, even surpassing immortal sects in some ways. Thinking back, if he had taken the imperial examinations instead, he might have avoided the issue of cultivation altogether. Yet if he had done that, he would never have encountered this hidden sect. Loss and gain were intertwined. While he was thinking, a cheerful voice greeted him. It was his junior-senior sister, Chingru. She introduced herself casually. Yeping was momentarily flustered, then composed himself. She encouraged him to cultivate diligently and mentioned she would teach him the supreme Tao someday. He quickly dismissed the thought that she might be a hidden expert. Yeping asked about cultivating the 3,600 immortal acupoints mystic method, worried about deviating without spiritual energy. She told him it was fine, basic methods like these wouldn't cause deviation. Hearing this, Yeping was secretly overjoyed. This method suited him perfectly. The manual explained that the human body was like a sealed demon beast, with countless treasures hidden within its acupoints. Opening them allowed the body to naturally absorb spiritual energy. Each opened acupoint doubled absorption speed. Opening all 3,600 meant a cultivation speed far beyond ordinary people. Yeping finally understood. His lack of spiritual routes meant weak absorption, not impossibility. This method could compensate for everything. With sword techniques, body cultivation, alchemy knowledge, and now a way to gather spiritual energy, all that remained was cultivation itself. He finally felt his path open. Elsewhere in the Jinglin Mountains, danger erupted. Taiwa urged Su Chongyu to flee, but Su Chongyu refused to abandon him. Despite knowing they were outmatched, Su Chongyu stood firm. Yet before despair could take hold, a powerful figure appeared and crushed the threat effortlessly. Su Chongyu froze. The newcomer matched the figure in the painting exactly. It was the special envoy. Remembering the sect master's warning, Su Chongyu forced himself to remain calm. The other party addressed them casually, asking what they were doing there. Su Chongyu awkwardly replied they were just passing through. The envoy noticed their injuries and casually offered a healing pill. The pill's value shocked Taiwa, but Su Chongyu accepted politely, choosing to play along. Sensing danger beneath the calm surface, he tried to withdraw. Just as they prepared to leave, the envoy stopped them. Then came a question. What do you believe the true sword path truly is? Su Chongyu instantly regretted speaking. He had clearly gone too far, yet stopping himself now was impossible. The question itself felt absurd, and the people asking it were from one of the three great sects. He tried to restrain himself, failed, and blurted out that a single blade of grass was the true sword path. The moment the words left his mouth, embarrassment flooded him. The others asked for clarification, and he continued, saying the sword followed the heart, that one sword could shatter the stars. Even didn't know what he was saying anymore. The surrounding disciples fell silent, then suddenly claimed they had all comprehended it. Su Chongyu was stunned. He alone felt completely lost, yet everyone else acted enlightened. With no choice, he ended the exchange and left, praised as a true master. Back at Xinyan Dao sect, Yeping focused on his cultivation. He had discovered his immortal acupoint, but realized it required an enormous amount of spiritual energy, far beyond his weak spiritual root. He reflected that even the simplest methods were built on deep principles, just like basic mathematics. If he could understand the root of cultivation rather than imitate others, he could walk his own path. Days passed without progress. Yeping turned to painting to calm his mind. While drawing, he helped his senior brother with a portrait, unintentionally judging its value drop by drop. While painting landscapes afterward, inspiration struck. Painting and Tao aligned, heart and nature flowing together. Instead of forcing spiritual energy, he let the immortal acupoint integrate with heaven and earth naturally. As the acupoint absorbed energy, an ancient inheritance stirred, the candle dragon. Yeping recognized its terrifying origin and understood its authority over time and space. With his immortal acupoint opened, he prepared to cultivate the god-demon body refining method, first adjusting his painting to clear his state of mind. Elsewhere, dark clouds gathered. Su Luochen mistook the omen for rain and rushed off to collect Su Chongyu's clothes. At Yeping's dwelling, thunder roared as spiritual energy within hundreds of miles surged toward him. His immortal apertures connected like a dragon, drawing energy automatically, bypassing traditional refinement. Realizing only one aperture had opened, Yeping decided to begin body refinement. He summoned earth as a furnace and heaven as a hammer. The process succeeded too well. A violent surge descended from the sky, striking him directly. Half his body was destroyed. As death loomed, two immortal apertures burst open, regenerating his body instantly. Flames erupted. His body burned, cracked, collapsed, and reformed. Bone blackened, flesh shattered, then rebuilt stronger than before. Blue light enveloped him as his body regenerated completely, refined beyond its former state. Exhausted, Yeping collapsed, breath ragged, pain lingering deeply. But he liked it.